This is Juliet Clark, your host. Welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. Before we get started with today's guest, don't forget to go over to YouTube and like us at Superbrand Publishing. You can watch all the videos over there for this show. I hope you go over and binge watch them, or go over and you're obviously listening to our podcast. So please, please, please like us and write a review. So today's guest is a little bit different. His name is Bruce Outridge, and he's an artist, an author, a consultant, and a speaker. He's been a professional cartoonist for over a decade and is the author of 4 books on business and leadership. And he's also a business marketing consultant and speaks to groups to inspire them how to communicate with their audience. And his background for all this is really unique. He is the host and producer of 2 podcasts, the Inspiring Youth television show, and has been a columnist and social media expert for the industry since 2007. And all of this, his most popular podcast, is actually the result of being 25 years as a truck driver. So, it always astounds me. Welcome, Bruce.
Thank you.
It always astounds me how many different types of podcasts there are out there. I was at the gym this morning, and I started listening to an Irish history podcast.
Yeah.
And who would have known it? It's super interesting because, my whole family's Irish, but there's podcasts on everything these days.
I know. I follow them all on Twitter. On my Twitter account, I follow a bunch of, I don't listen to all of them, but like you say, there's so many different titles and people doing stuff that I never would have dreamed, and I still can't dream of it because I'm more business and careers, but there's some really interesting ones for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us how you got started in all this. Like what, you were telling me a little bit before we started.
I don't know if you have that long a show. I think you limit these episodes, don't you? So,
well, okay. So give us the abridged, the Reader's Digest version. And I'll bet there are people out there who are like not as old as us who will go, what's a Reader's Digest version?
Yes, I know Reader's Digest. That's telling you how old I am. So I started drawing when I was 10 years old. Did that for through my teenage years, and then went into trucking. This is the fast forward, and continued that for 25 years driving a transport truck. And then I got promoted into being in charge of the fleet, the corporate world, and realized I hated it. So I decided to quit and start an art business because everything I've been told to do, whether I've been told to be an artist, when I wanted to be an artist, everybody said you can't be an artist. When I said I'm going to get in the trucking industry, everybody said, "Oh, you won't make any money. Don't get into the trucking industry." When I said I'm going to be a full-time artist, they all said, "Oh, you won't make any money as an artist. You're starving." And so the same has gone on for podcasts and books and everything else. And so now I just do whatever I feel like doing. And some make money, some don't. Some are better than others, but it's fun all the time.
That's so funny you said that because it reminds me, I think it's the Geico commercial where the couple is at like, really? You're an art major?
That's
Are you
right.
going to make money with that? And I remember my parents saying the same thing in college with what I majored in, like, how are you going to make money at that?
Yeah,
Why do you care? No.
That's right. That's right. And the thing is, when I look back at all my work, it looks very segmented. When you say, truck driver and a podcast and television host, it looks like I'm all over the place. But at the end of the day, it actually leads to one point that I just like to show people that if you hear someone who's done it, if you want to do something, it's hard work. It's not easy. As you know, it's not easy to do publishing and podcasts and stuff. But if you're willing to do it and you want to do it, you can do it. And if you just find there's somebody who's done it that can show you the way. And that's all I'm doing in a lot of my stuff. My trucking podcast is business and careers. Somebody wants to have a good career as a truck driver. That's what that podcast is for. This one, Cashing on Creativity podcast, is for artists. How do you build a business? If you want to be a cartoonist, how do you do it? Who's done it? There's Tom Richmond. There's all sorts of artists that I've interviewed of how to do it. And musicians the same way.
That's so interesting. So it reminds me, a couple weeks ago, I was kind of reflecting. Somebody had me tell my whole story. And I was reflecting on, like, when you're in the moment of that story, going from trucking to whatever that next step is, you never really think about where is this leading to. But when you're at that point and then you look back, you're like, it all makes sense now.
Yeah. You have to be older like myself to figure that out. And I've got a mantra that's just get started. everybody's trying to figure out the end game. And if they don't see the end game, they don't start. Well, you learn so much along the way, as I'm sure you have in your career, all the different positions, and you were talking toys and everything that you've done before, that you've learned marketing and all of that through that. And if you hadn't started in that role, let's say you decided I'm going to be a waitress because I don't see what else I can do in life, you wouldn't have learned all the stuff. You wouldn't be where you are today. I wouldn't be where I am today either. I didn't know anything about podcasting. I just decided I had a message I wanted to share, and I didn't worry about monetizing it. My trucking podcast has been going on since 2015. I did it for 2.5 years for free. And I just kind of got tired, and now we have sponsors against it and everything. So it can be done.
Okay, complete transparency. I was a waitress in college, and I was a really bad one. Like, get your own damn ketchup.
Yeah,
bad.
Right. I would be that way too, which is why I'm not. I used to be a cook. I was a cook in a fast food restaurant, but it doesn't matter. If I had listened to all the people who said don't go there, I wouldn't have been in the trucking industry, which I've loved. I love it to this day. I still have so many friends in the industry. If I hadn't continued with my art, and I didn't do my art for a lot of years. There's 18 years of trucking where I never lifted a pencil. It's not till I went through a divorce in my 30s that I got back into my art. So I didn't do it the whole way through, which is, I would have been a lot further ahead if I'd done that.
Mm-hmm. So you bring up such a great point that I really want you guys to hear. Just get started. I was at a podcasting event in late January, and everybody around me was there because they wanted to have a podcast. Yeah. But I could tell that probably 3/4 of them were going to get into perfection mode and never actually get it started because they had to have all these pieces in place. And really, you just have to open up a microphone and Zoom and do it.
You have to be willing to they say the average podcast doesn't get past 20 episodes. So you and I are both past 20 episodes. But there was a point, I say 100 episodes. 100, you've got to get to 100 in anything. For podcasts, I believe 100, you find your voice. If you go and do website design, you probably have to build 100 of them before you get really good at knowing how things work and where they should go. So everything takes time. Networking, I go to network. I'll tell someone at a networking event, come to this group for a year before you expect any business. And most of them will not show up after the second time if they haven't gotten business. But I've gotten business for years, but I was willing to show up for a year before asking anybody for business. And you got to do that long-term game. That's how this works.
This is such a good point. We actually have our Marketing Monday mixer, and we had last night, we talked about just this thing. Having that longevity in, okay, I'm going to commit to doing this for X amount of time, and it has to be a good amount of time, and not getting distracted by the shiny objects.
That's right.
In the meantime, because that diversion's actually going to make your path so much slower. Yes. Now, what I love about this, and tell me if yours was bad too, is I find with podcasts that people will jump in someplace in the middle. They find like, oh, that caught my interest. And then they start at the beginning, and your beginning one is probably one of your worst.
Yeah. You know what? I actually don't take any of mine down. So you can go back to episode 1 and it probably sounds horrible. I remember my wife going, what's he doing? He's talking in a room to himself. Mine was a solo show. I didn't even expect it. Now it's mostly interviews, but it was a solo show at the time. But I got to 100 episodes and I almost canceled my show. So my biggest podcast, I canceled at 100. I had been told by all the gurus that you have to have all this engagement. And if you're not getting emails, it's not successful. And I was listening and I didn't understand all of that stuff. I got to 100. I wasn't getting any emails. So I said, you know what? No one's listening to this. I actually put on the air comments for people. So I turned it into a music episode and I kept going. And we're now at 450 episodes of that same podcast.
That is.
So you've got to keep going.
You do have to keep going. And I know my mentor, one of my mentors in the podcast industry, podcast 5 days a week. And it blows me away. He's like on his 550th episode. Yeah, I don't know that I'm quite that good. So you talked by yourself for 100 episodes?
Yeah, I didn't have, well, I had a few guests here and there, people I knew in the industry, but I didn't actually have a plan. I didn't say this is going to be a solo show or this is going to be an interview show. All I did was say, I've got a message. I want to talk to truck drivers. I've worked for good companies. I think I can help them have good careers. That was it. So at first it was a few people I knew in the industry that were willing to be on a microphone, and I would fill in with my own topics. And now I've got people approaching me all the time. I very rarely actually have to do. Now I try to get a solo show in just because it's all interviews all the time. So.
Well, I think I must be really boring because my listenership is not as much up when I do a show by myself. So I don't know. What does that say about me, you guys? You probably should send me some messages and tell me.
No. You know what? A lot of times, and they're all different. A lot of times it's the topic. A lot, as you know, in marketing, sometimes it's as simple as the title and the picture. People just go through. I mean, you're always struggling with that. So I wouldn't think that. But I think if you're willing to, for myself, just put out the message, just put in the work, be determined. I'm very good at, both my shows have over 150 episodes. One's 450, the other one's at 170. They've both been going for years. One is not monetized at all. I have not made a dime off it, but it's kind of a way of giving back. Same with my television show. I don't make any money. It's a community television show. There's no money there. So my one podcast is really making any money. Mm-hmm. But they're all fun to do. So, and they've all given me connections. If you go to someone and say, "Can we meet for a cup of coffee?" They go, do I have time for a cup of coffee? But if you say you want to be on my show, they all say yes, right? Because everybody's looking for marketing.
That's so very true. And I met you on LinkedIn. Yeah,
that's right.
I reached out and said, "Hey, I'd love to do a pod swap." Yep. And that's probably the most fun of it is I get to talk to so many different people that I normally wouldn't. And then do you go to events? Do you go to podcasting events?
I'm actually, I'm scheduled for one. We just booked the hotel for a podcast movement. I think it's in August. Mm-hmm. In Canada here, we don't have a lot of them. And I'm at truck shows. I'm at a lot of events, just not podcast events. So I'm trying to get to some podcast events, but I am at a lot of truck shows, and that's where my people are, right? So I do a lot of interviews. I've got a 2-day show tomorrow. So
wow. Now, is that the one that's monetized?
Yeah. So I go there. My sponsors, I interview them. I interview people in the crowd. I do video production. I've got my own equipment, so I do video production for a lot of these events, and that's how I get my name out there. I actually don't have to go to a podcast. A podcast event for me is not necessarily where I would go there for my own information. I wouldn't go there necessarily to find other people to connect. Not saying it wouldn't happen, but it's just that's not my focus of going to a podcast conference. Mine is more to get information and get tips.
That's sort of mine as well. Although we do have our quiz is a podcast product. I actually go more for my own learning as well and meeting other people. And it's fun to hear how they're monetizing. Yeah. So one of the things that happened as a matter of the reach out, I met you, but I met all of these people that I wasn't really an appropriate guest for their show, but I was blown away. Like there's a whole podcast on chocolate.
Yeah.
Like who doesn't love chocolate? Who wouldn't listen to that?
I want samples if I'm a guest on that show. I expect a mailing.
There you go. You know what? Maybe I'll go back and volunteer to be on the show just to get the chocolate.
Yeah, I want payment, but I want it in chocolate. So.
There you go. And now I'm a paid speaker because I got chocolate in exchange for speaking.
Well, that's the other thing. I'm part of an association here. They've got NSA, National Speakers Association in the States. I'm part of the Canadian version, which is CAPS, Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. And I get a lot of guests for my show from there because they all are trying to market themselves, and a lot of them have interesting stories and a lot of great information to share, right? So it doesn't matter what the group, just go wherever you want to go, and you will meet. I meet people I could meet someone on the corner. I don't even have to go to a group. So I just go to a lot of stuff that is of interest to me, and I always meet somebody. My Chamber of Commerce, I meet people all the time.
I don't even really go to the Chamber of Commerce, but I do go to a lot of networking. So, that's something to think about, you guys. You can't, yes, for most of you, you're trying to be online marketers, but online doesn't mean that you never leave the house.
No.
You have to go out and build some relationships out there.
Well, and this is the thing, right? Passive income and all of that people say, oh, it's online, I don't have to do anything. That is a lie.
Oh, yes.
Everybody I know that's got courses or podcasts or whatever it is they're doing is working their tail off behind the scenes. And I like being with people, in front of people. So I go to a lot of networking events, and that's how I build my audience. And it may not be as quick as throwing a Facebook ad out there, but the people I have are core people. Like, they stay with you, they listen, they comment. So yeah, I'm building it a bit slower than maybe some would, but at the same time, I'm building a stronger audience, which is what the advertisers want at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, Tracy Hazard and I have the Monday Marketing Mixer show.
Yeah.
And people were asking us, like, probably 3-4 weeks in, like, how many people are listening? And we could see the stats over on Live Leap, but nobody was coming on. We actually have a Live Leap link where you can come on, and nobody was coming on. And this is why you need to wait, you guys. It's been 4 months, and both of us are fairly well known. Yeah. And now we're just starting to have people jump on the Zoom link with us and come on those shows. So I think that's a perfect example of you have to wait. Now, I loved what you just said about online marketers who think it's no work. I actually have a joke about the first day you're an online marketer, you've just quit your job, you're showered, you're at your desk, you're so stoked, you have all this freedom. And then by month 4, you're literally not showering, you're exhausted, you look like hell. Even your dog is sitting over in the corner like, dude, shower. It is a lot more work than people think it is.
Yeah, my wife has just seen it over the years. When, I remember back in 2008, I put out a comic book series for kids. And the first thing she said is, how are we going to make money from comic books? And I said, don't worry. I said, there's Todd McFarlane, there's Stan Lee, there's all these famous guys. We'll make it. To find out that's not how you cannot make it unless you're distributing 200,000 at a time. But I got a lot of business from those comic books, and that's how we made money. And same with this. She goes, how are you going to make money from a podcast? I don't know. I'm going to start it, and I've got enough connections in transportation. Something will happen. And it took 2 years, and now something has happened. She sees me on social media. At first, it was like, why are you taking so long to post on social media? It takes me an hour each morning just to post to my social media feeds, my podcasts.
Wow.
And then another hour at night. Usually I go back and I answer comments and all that kind of stuff. So she now sees the amount of work that goes into it, but she also sees the check come in and go, oh, this is from the podcasting. Okay, now I know why he's doing that. So she's learned a lot of that over the years watching me that she had never really experienced that part of the business before.
Yeah, that is so true. And I think when I go to podcast events, that's the biggest thing people are looking for is, how can I monetize this? Last month I went to a pitch I was invited to, and everybody who pitched, and they only allowed like the 4 top to pitch. All of them wanted to know, how am I going to make money from this? And it can be challenging sometimes, especially in areas like you're talking about with the comic books. Yeah. I'm stunned at how many people are doing those type of podcasts, and it's a lot of competition.
Oh yeah. But the problem I'll tell you why everybody's having trouble with monetization is because they're looking at what is being done online. So when people look at how do you monetize a podcast, it's usually sponsors or Patreon or one of those programs, something along that line. But how many people have gone out the door to their local retailers in their own neighborhood with a podcast, done an interview, and said, are you interested in advertising with me? And I've made up my own programs. I don't do the traditional format of so many impressions and all of that. Mm-hmm. I don't make any money that way. I make money because I put a package together and I said, I'm going to give you this, this, and this. And it includes social media. It includes everything. Here's how much it is a month.
Nice.
But I bet you most people are looking online on Facebook to people they don't even know, hoping they'll advertise instead of going out their front door to people who actually know them in the area and saying, listen, I got a show. Are you interested? And maybe you make your show very specific to your neighborhood, but you'll probably have a ton of, people that want to sponsor. So it's not hard to monetize. You have to be creative in your thinking.
You do have to be very creative. And here's one way I see people monetizing that I don't care for is, I'm just going to mention, is when they call you and they say, you know what, I have an episode available, and they charge you to be on it. that kind of, I don't know why. I just don't like that, because I look for really good guests. I don't charge people. I go out and look for the best guests I can find.
That's right.
I think that serves people much more than me saying, you know, hey, it's. I had someone call me a couple months ago and just blow smoke up my you know what about how great I was, and you know, did I want to do this for $500? And I was like, no, I'm not really that great. No.
Well, I had one a few months ago, and it might be the same place, but they wanted $1,500.
Oh wow.
And I was in. I even hooked up on LinkedIn. I was in until they said the price, and then I said, this doesn't sound right. Like, you know, I shouldn't be paying that. I may as well just advertise on somebody's show and pick the show. Not, you know, that show was not necessarily for me, for my audience.
Right. And for me, I haven't monetized in that way. I monetize more. I pick up clients from it, which is more my goal.
Yep.
But yeah, I haven't even looked for sponsors. My coach gave me a website to go to, and I really haven't done anything with it. I don't know if I want that kind of responsibility.
Well, you know, and sponsors are no easier. It's a lot of work. You now have to make sure the sponsors are happy. You got to make sure the audience is happy. It's a very fine line, and I keep just trying. I'm not saying I've got it all figured out. We've had sponsors for about 3 years now, so I'm happy. And a lot of them that have come on have stayed, so they enjoy what we're doing. But I don't know if I've got it figured out. I don't know if they're going to be there next year. I just keep trying to make it better, be better, and hopefully they'll stay, or I'll get new ones.
That's cool. Now, do you send your podcast out to your list?
Yeah, I don't really have a huge email list. Most of my lists are either the social media or their subscribers or what have you. I've always struggled with the email list because I don't send out a ton of emails. I even tried this a couple of years ago. I started a cartoon store. And I went through the whole program where you're supposed to send out, you know, the targeted funnel of 7 emails and all of that stuff. I hated it. I don't like it for myself. And I'm going, why am I going to do this for people because someone else told me to? I send out a newsletter once a month. Like, it's just some tips and stuff. I don't build my list that way. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. But I figure if I don't like 7 emails a week, and then the people who are sending me all of those, I'm not even reading them anymore. So they think they're working, they're not.
Yeah.
I'm not reading. I just delete them now, but I can't get off their list for whatever reason. I probably signed up 3 times somehow. I probably wanted the free book or whatever they were giving away. And now I'm not even using it, right?
Oh my gosh. So guys, I want you to hear that, because when I'm talking about smart lead magnets, it was the dumb lead magnets that got us into this mess where we have these unresponsive lists. That's why we use the quiz, because we call it a smart lead magnet. Yeah. How many times, think about what Bruce just said, you guys. How many times did you get on somebody's list and you never opened anything because you wanted that free book or whatever it was? So that is, thank you for saying that. That was totally unsolicited, but that's sort of what I preach with this. And the 7 emails, I don't think they work either. I send out my podcast as content once a week to my list. And I deleted about 5,000 people from my list because I wanted that. It was like this time last year. I wanted a responsive list, and I have a very responsive small list. And I hate it when the JV partners call up and like, will you promote this? How big is your list? And it's like, no, I won't promote it. My list isn't that big. So.
No, I don't even actually. I've probably got 3 newsletter lists going. One of them for my art business is only clients. I don't actually have you can't sign up for it. But if you've worked with me, I usually put you on the list. And it's just an article once a month to keep top of mind. That's it. All the other lists, people can sign up, but I don't really do much with the lists or the lead magnets. The way I do my business now is I do it based on what I would do. So because I'm very, very big at listening to all the gurus. And when I started my podcast, I was told you had to do it daily. And I started daily. And I almost killed myself. Then I went down to once a week. And now it's a daily show now, pretty well. I've got 3 main episodes a week on my trucking podcast and all the sponsor stuff in between. So basically there's content coming out every day, but I built up to that. So now it's comfortable for me because I know why I'm doing it and what I'm doing. At the first I was told you got to have every day. That's how you make it big. That's not how you make it big. So I do what I want to do. If I only like emails once a week, then that's all I'm going to send them out once a week. If I only want to do one show a week, and that's all then I'm only going to do one show a week. Everybody's trying to do what's right for everybody else. Just do what's right for you, and then you may not build it as fast, but you'll build it comfortably, which is a secret as well.
Yeah. But the key is their consistency. So whatever you choose, consistently try to do that. That's why my show is once a week, but I'm thinking about bumping it because like I'm recording for May now. Yeah. So, now I've gotten a little bit ahead and I'm thinking, this might be the time to bump it up since I'm getting better guests from LinkedIn than I was before.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. My Cashing on Creativity podcast is once a week, and I've kept it at that because that's just comfortable. They're not even long episodes or I try to always keep my shows around 30 minutes, but sometimes it's 10 minutes and sometimes it's 45 minutes. It depends on if I have a guest or not. But I just do what's comfortable for me. And now with my bigger podcast, I add an episode when I get enough sponsors to fill it. So I'm at a comfortable spot. Like all my sponsor spots are full right now. For me to bring on more sponsors, because I don't want more than, I try to keep it to 2 sponsors per show. So now if I get 2 more sponsors or another sponsor with a big package, I might add an episode a week to do that. But I really don't want to because I know how much work that it's going to be. So I'm trying not to.
That's always... Go ahead.
I'm creating a waiting list before I add another episode.
There you go. It's always a balance. Like you have to look at how much free, because everybody gets into this because they want more free time. So you have to kind of balance, how much am I really doing this well with it? So
it's not free time. Nothing's free. Your time is worth something, and you may be, if you're building the podcast, that's time you're taking. You should be paid for that in some way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree. So where can we find you? Where's your podcast at? Probably most of my listeners would be interested in the cashing in on creativity.
There's a website we have 7 websites just for our business, but here's the easiest one. Just go to bruceoutridge.com. Everything is linked off of that. You can go there and you can see all of the podcasts. Cashing on Creativity has its own cashingoncreativitypodcast.com. Like I say, there's other, but Bruce Outridge is probably the easiest place to start, learn about me, and then it links to all the podcasts from there. It's easier than putting 7 websites in your show notes.
and trying. Thank you. I appreciate that. Even though I don't do my own show notes, I appreciate that. Okay. All right. Thank you, Bruce. It's been great having you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. I've been loving your podcast. I've been listening. And now I'm glad that you said that you have this mixer thing on Monday nights. Because I was listening to your and the way I do podcasts is I don't necessarily subscribe. I pick episodes that I'm interested in learning that week on certain topics. So I picked about 4 of yours out, and I've been listening to them, and they go into kind of, is it like a food menu, or you and Tracy talk about what, and I'm going, okay, we just were talking marketing. How did we get into, I don't know, chocolate? And she was talking bruschetta this morning. I think it was an October episode I was listening to. So I was like, that doesn't make sense. I wasn't sure how that was working.
So we have Tracy and I have a mutual client, Chef Marie, and I don't know what it was a mixer. It was going to be happy hour. Somehow neither of us drinks. So we ran out of drinks really quick.
Well, she seemed to know a lot about rum on the episode I was listening to.
Well, yeah, she drinks more than I do. I don't drink at all, although I can talk tequila. I used to drink. But so Marie just gave us a new stack of recipes, and we're like, I don't even know if we can fix it in. But I don't know if you've gotten up to Scott Carson's, but Scott actually got on with root beer. And he said, I don't have a fancy drink. It's just me and my root beer. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Is Scott the one that does all the noises? He was doing the pig noise and all. Okay. That was the episode I was listening to at the gym this morning. So.
Yes. So if you want to get some of those Monday mixers we've incorporated in, if you want to get more of the Monday mixer, go over to Marketing Monday Mixer on Facebook and like our page, and you can sign up and actually get in on those live. They're Monday at 5:00 Mountain Time.
I just was not catching the connection between the marketing and the mixer. I'm glad you've explained that. Now it makes sense.
That was it. Tracy and I just started it to we had a program called Launch Like a Pro. And so we were showing our students how to do it, and we've just kept doing it.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's fun, now I know I might get start doing it too. I just didn't know. Like I said, it's funny. Maybe I should start at the beginning and subscribe, but I kind of went in the middle, like you were saying, right? So.
Well, there you go. And leave us a review.
Thanks very much, Julia.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.